Mackenzie Johnston with Tri-State Livestock News, bringing you discussions concerning fair cattle markets. Today we have the opportunity to chat with Rachel Gabel. She is the assistant editor of the Fence Post magazine, and she is located near Fort Morgan, Colorado. Can you give our listeners just a little bit of an idea of your background and your location?
I'm the assistant editor of the Fence Post magazine, and I'm on a cow-calf operation in northeastern Colorado, kind of by Fort Morgan. And we run commercial cattle, and then we also have a purebred herd, and then we market some high-end heifers, some bulls, and show cattle as well.
So you recently wrote an article titled Fighting for Rural Colorado and Agriculture. Can you elaborate on these issues that the ag industry is currently facing there in Colorado?
Sure. This is certainly not a new issue for us with Governor Polis. It actually dates back to last August when he went to a meeting with the staff of the Colorado Department of Agriculture and bought them all Impossible Walkers and asked them to take a look at agriculture and see what we could grow here in Colorado that would maybe replace beef, essentially. And, it was quite a big deal. He's obviously not very familiar with the lack of soybeans and coconut hulls and things like that here in Colorado. We have a pretty diverse climate. We can grow a lot of things, but coconut is not on the list. So he did come. We had a Better with Beef event, and he came and took a bite of an actual beef cheeseburger. Don't think I'm trying to be dramatic or anything, but there's been a lot of just small attacks on rural Colorado and on agriculture. And the most recent one, now that we're kind of caught up, was the appointment of Ellen Kessler to the State Board of Veterinary Medicine. Kessler is an outspoken vegan activist, and while I do not care what she has for lunch and what her dietary choices are, that's her personal choice, she is very vocal and very adamant about her opposition to animal agriculture. She is regularly holding vigils for the poor lost souls at the slaughterhouses. She's very negative toward all of that, and the comment that kind of sent people over the edge was that she said that 4-H teaches kids that animal lives don't matter. So, of course, as we're right here in the middle of county fair season here in Colorado, that really struck a nerve. So we have a letter together to see if we can't get that appointment stopped.
This letter, it'll be sent to Governor Polis and some other political figures there in Colorado. And then what happens? What are the next steps? What does it look like going forward once this letter is submitted?
Well, unfortunately, what will happen is that she'll have a confirmation hearing during the next legislative session, which, of course, we don't know when that will be or what that'll look like, but she will have to go through that confirmation hearing process. I've been in contact with Governor Polis' office several times. He has quit calling me back, though. He is aware, and I've been in contact with several of the members of the Senate Ag Committee, which is actually who will confirm her addition to that committee.
If she is confirmed into this position with the state vet board, what kind of responsibilities will she have, and what kind of impact will she have on agriculture?
Well, there's 7 members on that board, and there's 2 of them are laypersons. The other 5 are veterinarians, and they're given the responsibility of interpreting veterinary practice law onto specific cases, and they have to do that in a fair and equitable way that reflects the intention of the law as it's written. And so that interpretation left at the mercy of someone's bias or agenda is scary, especially for food animal veterinarians, large animal veterinarians. Even though we have CSU, which is one of the country's great vet schools, large animal and rural practitioners, food animal vets, we're experiencing a shortage here in Colorado for a lot of different reasons, but we don't want to make Colorado somewhere where large animal vets do not want to practice. I think that our veterinarians deserve some good folks on that board so that if they do have to go before that board, it's not just on the whim of one person with an agenda that will try to ruin their entire career. I mean, how ludicrous to put someone who is opposed to animal agriculture on the veterinary board. And that just doesn't make any sense at all, unless you're trying to destroy an industry.
Since Governor Polis has been in office there in Colorado, has he brought to light other anti-ag agendas that he would like to see through?
Well, as far as the boards and commissions, there is one on Parks and Wildlife Board, I think, But that appointment was made to a former attorney who has a long list of clients that are environmental activists and animal rights activists, that sort of thing. He's working on this project that's basically to restore the American Serengeti. So they're basically taking ranches out of production to put them back into conservation to restore this American Serengeti. Unfortunately, he really fits the bill on that committee because they want one who works in conservation. So his appointment, while I'm not wild about it, it fits the bill and it would be a hard one to argue. You know, the bottom line for Colorado is that there's so much legislation that's anti-ag. The big example that I can think of right now is with the egg producers. They had an extremist group come to them and said, we will run a ballot initiative to make you all go to cage-free so that all eggs sold in Colorado have to be cage-free by the end of the year. I can't remember if it's by the end of 2020 or the end of 2021. But they said, if you don't do it, we'll run a ballot initiative. So the egg producers were worried about that because that's like, multi-million dollars to transfer over to those cage-free systems. So they partnered with HSUS to write this legislation so that now, it's of course passed, now by 2025, every egg sold in Colorado has to come from a cage-free environment.
Oh my goodness.
And, California got tied up in this mess, and there was some anti-interstate commerce. Those were overruled by a judge, so now, by 2025, all of the eggs in the state of Colorado will have to come from a cage-free environment. The egg producers will tell you that it was a marketplace mandate, this is where the market's going, and that's fine. But it's frustrating, and it ought not be so, when extremists from out of state come in and tell people how they should be raising animals and how they should be choosing their production methods. We should be getting strong-armed by extremists.
Is there anything else you want to touch on going on there in agriculture, there in Colorado?
I think the big thing is that agriculture as a whole, we don't want to play dirty. We're busy. We're getting ready to start fall calving. We're getting ready to chop silage, putting up hay, whatever it is that we're doing right now. At some point, you have to take some action and you have to help defend yourself. But that's a hard thing for folks to do, and it's hard for them to kind of get a grip on, get a handle around it of what to do. That's why we put this letter together. I kind of rolled my eyes, change.org. I'm like, oh yeah, great, let's put together a petition. But we have almost 500 pages of signatures.
Yeah.
And I think at last count it was like 65 pages of comments. So it gave people something that they can do, but we're not done. There still has to be those personal letters written. We still have to call those folks that are on that Senate Ag Committee. We still have to show up. They're going to redistrict our Senate districts here in the state. So talk about needing some rural representation there. Holy cow. That could go very poorly for rural Colorado if we don't get some good representation. It's just a matter of getting your arms around it and giving people something that they feel like they can actually do.
Anyone can sign this letter, correct?
Right, and we're going to try to get it downloaded Friday at some point. So you can sure find it. I'm sure Mackenzie will put the link there.
Yep.
It will be sent to Governor Polis, to the state auditor, to the gal who does the appointments to the boards and commissions, as well as all of the members of the House and Senate Ag Committees. We've heard from Colorado Livestock Association sent a letter. There's been a lot of letters going out there.
Good. And
really the only response I've seen people get is, well, we won't be dealing with that until the next legislative session. And my response is, well, we'll be paying attention then too, don't worry.
Have you received a fair amount of support from agriculture groups there in Colorado?
Yeah, those groups have all been very supportive, and I've heard a lot from individuals and from everybody from CICA, which is the RCAF group here in Colorado, to Colorado Cattlemen, Colorado Livestock, all of those groups, Colorado Farm Bureau I've visited with. And those are folks that know me pretty well, and I'm in pretty constant contact with all of them. Yeah. That's the nice thing about Colorado Ag, is it's a pretty close bunch.